Welcome. How y'all doing tonight? My name is Jordan Davidson, and this is a special international edition of Behind the Bench. The Steelheads this week played another 3-3 all on the road, taking on the Guelph Storm on Friday, and then crossing into Michigan on Saturday to take on the Saginaw Spirit, and then the Flint Firebirds on Sunday. I was at all three games. Yep, I crossed into Michigan for the very first time. Apologies for the production delay, by the way. I was kind of tired when I got home on Sunday. I got home at midnight, Sunday night / Monday morning. I usually do most of my shooting on Monday, but this particular Monday it was Halloween, A, first of all, and B, I kind of crashed around 6 o'clock, so I didn't have a lot of time to do any filming. So I did delay the production schedule a day, so the video is out a day later this week. So apologies for that, but I will try to release the videos on Wednesday most of the time, but occasionally this might happen if I have a late Sunday or, anything else happens. But yeah, anyways, this November I am growing a mustache in support of men's mental health. Just like a mustache, mental illness starts out invisible but soon grows into something you cannot ignore. If you'd like to make a donation to my Movember page, the link is in the description, and please, take care of yourselves, men. Also, as I mentioned, I do the bulk of my shooting on one day, but I will occasionally do reshoots or add things on the next day. So if any of my eagle-eyed viewers do see my mustache look longer in the next shot and then shorter in the next shot after that, it's because, shut up, that's why. Anyways, first stop on the road trip was Guelph on Friday. Here are some of my pre-game shots from there. Destination 1 of the 3-day road trip. Here we are at Sleeman Center, home of the Guelph Storm. And another comes on, and another comes on, another one rides the bus. Hey, gonna beat the storm, another one rides the bus. You may remember from the last time we were here, Sleeman Center is attached to a mall, and it kind of looks like some kind of expo's going on here in the mall. Not sure, there's some old cars over there, and some booths. Yeah, it might be a crazy day here all around. Here a little bit early, so the comic store and the drugstore are still open as well, so could be a heavy traffic day. See, even after Hamilton won the championship, there's still a big space where the Hamilton banner should be here. All the Western teams are on top. So, Guelph's motto remains, screw Hamilton.
Hey, whippersnappers, always playing ball in my mall. Get off my lawn.
Alessio Beglieri got the start in net for the Steelheads on Friday. The Guelph Storm countered with Jacob Oster. The puck dropped, and we got underway. A pretty even first period on both sides. There was not a single penalty in the first period, and the Steelheads ended up leading the shots 10-8. It wasn't until the 9:36 mark that Kai Schwint was able to beat Jacob Oster for the first time, give the assist on that one to ZANDER, VECCIA, and Kasper Larsson, and that made it 1-0 for the Steelheads. Guelph would tie it with less than a minute to go in the first, though. It was SASHA PASTUJOV getting his first of the game, give the assist to Danny ZHILKIN and Ben McFarlane, and that made it 1-1 going into the second. Back for the second period now, and it was Luca Del Bel Beluz getting the Mississauga Steelheads back on top with a beautiful snipe that hit top corner. Give the assist on that one to SHARPE and Zachary LAVOIE at the 3:20 mark of the second period, and all of a sudden we have a 2-1 Steelheads lead. Unfortunately, that lead would be short-lived for the Steelheads as well. SASHA PASTUJOV would strike again for the second time in the game. Ben McFarlane would get another assist, and at the 5:44 mark of the second period, it would be a 2-2 game. 7:47 into the second period, and the first penalties of the game would finally happen as a result of a fight between Ryan Struthers and Charlie Paquette of the Guelph Storm. Paquette would get the instigator with that fight, and the 10-minute misconduct as well. So the Steelheads would be on a power play, but nothing would come of that. Guelph would get another penalty at the 13:37 mark with Ryan McGuire whistled for a cross-check, but not long after that, at 14:16, Ethan Del Mastro would be called for a slash, and it was at the end of that abbreviated power play for Guelph after McGuire got out that Guelph would take the lead again. BOWMAN scoring the goal, gave the assist to Danny ZHILKIN and Matthew Poitras, and the Guelph Storm would take a 3-2 lead. The woes would continue for Ethan Del Mastro. He would take another penalty for roughing, this time at 18:51, and it was at 19:25 that SASHA PASTUJOV would complete the hat trick, sending all the Guelph Storm faithful hats onto the ice, give the assist on that one to Jake Murray and Danny ZHILKIN, and the Storm would be up 4-2 going into the second period. I saw Ethan Del Mastro coming back after that goal was scored, read his lips. He wasn't happy. But that's how it would be after the second period, 4-2 for the Guelph Storm. 3:55 into the third period, the Steelheads would pull within one again. Luca Del Blues getting a turnover and a snipe, which would find the top corner again. No assists on that one. It would be 4-3 for the Guelph Storm. Could the Steelheads pull off the comeback? Unfortunately, just like the Barrie game, penalties would kill the Steelheads in this one as well. Chaz Sharp would take a tripping call at 11:16, and then at 12:17, Isaac Enright, who was finally back from his concussion, would take a cross-checking call. So they were 5-on-3 for a bit. It was just after Chaz Sharp got back on the ice that Danny ZHILKIN would score his first of the night, give the assist to Jake Murray and SASHA PASTUJOV, and at 13:25 into the third period, it would be 5-3 for the Guelph Storm. The Steelheads would have their chances. They would lead the shots 13-10 in the third period and 33-29 in the game, but it was not to be. Guelph would add an empty netter, and the final score would be 6-3 for the Guelph Storm. Anyway, here is the three-star presentation. The Steelheads would be traveling to Saginaw right after the game, so they were kind of in a hurry, so I didn't get a lot. I got a few autograph shots, that's about it. But yeah, here is the post-game.
Third star of the night, brought Mississauga with 2 goals, number 73, Ruben The UAG second star of the night, brought the score with goal and 3 assists, number 17, and the UAG first star of the game, you know who it is, 3 goals, 1 assist, number 12, SASHA.
So right after the game against the Guelph Storm, the Steelheads would travel to Saginaw right away. I heard they got in pretty late, maybe around 5 a.m., something crazy like that. I myself left in the morning. I got a pretty good night's sleep and left for Saginaw after that. It was a pretty long delay at the border, but I got there in time and went to the game in Saginaw for the very first time. Here's some of the pregame from there. Well, this funny looking thing worked. I made it to Michigan, my first stop. Wendy's, because it was a 2-hour wait, and yeah, I need to pee. I've arrived in Saginaw, Michigan, a long way from good old Ontario, and pretty soon I'll be cheering on the fish again, down to the Dow Center to cheer Go Steel Go. Well, I'm officially international. Or insane, or, you know, one of those words that starts with I. But here we go, my first look at my 16th of 20 OHL arenas, and my first American one, the Dow Event Center, home of the Saginaw Spirit. See if I can walk around. There's the transportation center over there, nothing too special. I think I just remember seeing it when I played GeoGuessr, and this arena came up. But yeah, see this place on GeoGuessr, and now I'm here. Wait, Jerry Seinfeld was going to be here the same day? Well, I don't know. They have a Dow Theater over there, so maybe that's where he was going to be. But apparently it's rescheduled, so out of luck, I guess. This is a little different. There's kind of a banquet room in between the entrance and the arena. I think that's where the arena is. But right now they got some Halloween stuff set up for the kiddies. Kind of fun. But yeah, see you inside. Here we go. International warm-ups, baby. 77 over here. There he is. That's Michael MISA. Younger brother of our very own Luke. First time they're meeting on OHL ice. Ryerson Leaders would get the start for the Steelheads in the middle game of the 3-3. Tristan LENNOX, the veteran for the Spirit, would start for them. Jake Uberti would also be back in the lineup after missing the last 3 games since Kasper Larsson's return. Larsson would sit in this one. Again, both anthems were sung. Luke and Michael MISA would take both the ceremonial face-off and the real opening face-off, and the game in Saginaw would get underway. The Steelheads defense would clamp down early on. Ryerson Leaders only had to face 2 shots from the Spirit in the first period. The Steelheads themselves would take 10. A couple of scattered penalties, but nothing major. It would be a scoreless game after 1. The Spirit would break the ice early in the second period when Kai Schwint would inadvertently flick the puck into the crowd. He would take a delayed game penalty at the 2:11 mark, and then near the end of that power play at the 4:03 mark, it would be Matthias Sapovaliv scoring for the Spirit, give the assist to Sebastian Gervais and Mitchell Smith at the 4:03 mark. It would be 1-0 for the Spirit. It wouldn't take long after that for the Steelheads to tie it, though. Owen Beck, exactly at the 5-minute mark, would wrist one past Tristan LENNOX, give the assist to Luke MISA, and we had a 1-1 game. But again, it would take less than a minute after that goal for the next one to arrive, and it would be scored by the Spirit again. Pavel Mintyukov, the first-round pick in 2022 by the Anaheim Ducks, would give the Spirit back the lead, assist to Dean Laukus and Theo Hill at the 5:41 mark, and the Spirit would lead again, 2-1. Bit of a strange moment at the 15-18 mark of the second period. From what I could see from my seat, I could see a Spirit player get hit kind of head over heels, and a skirmish following that. At the end of that, Olivier Savard of the Spirit and Zachary Lavoie of the Steelheads were ushered to the box. So Savard and Lavoie were both put in the box, and there was a lengthy review, and during the review, the Spirit actually put a 5-minute penalty for Lavoie on the board, making me think Zachary Lavoie may be not long for this game. The review happened, it took maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and Lavoie did eventually leave the penalty box, and I thought he was going to be going to the dressing room, but he came to the bench, and I read his lips. He said, "No penalty." Yep, not only did they not kick Zachary Lavoie out of the game, they completely erased his penalty, and the Steelheads ended up with a 2-minute power play. So Spirit fans were a little bit unhappy with that, and perhaps making them unhappier was the fact that Zachary Lavoie ended up scoring the game-tying goal on that very same power play. Give the assist to Owen Beck and James Hardie, and at the 16-19 mark, it would be a 2-2 score. That is where it would stand after 2. The Steelheads would lead the shots 22-11 after 2, and it would be a 2-2 score heading into the third period. Saginaw would start to catch up on the shots a little bit, but at the 9:06 mark of the third period, it'd be Brayden Hislop taking a slashing call, and then a point shot by Chaz Sharpe, which apparently was deflected by Zander VECCIA. It was announced as a Chaz Sharpe goal in arena, but on the OHL site it says it's a Zander VECCIA goal now. It has Sharpe and Callahan with the assists, and that would give the Steelheads a 3-2 lead on another power play. Penalties would again play a factor for the Steelheads, though. A couple of hooking calls in quick succession, Owen Beck at 12:22 and then Mason Zabeski at 13:30, would put the Steelheads in a 5-on-3 hole just a few seconds after Zabeski's penalty at 13:44. It'd be Josh Bloom tying the score again, give the assist to Matthias Sapovaliv and Pavel Mintyukov, and it would again be a 3-3 game. With the Steelheads trying to hang on and the Spirit catching up in shots, the Steelheads would take a pretty costly penalty at the 18:01 mark. Ethan Del Mastro called for a slash, so the Steelheads would have to spend the last 2 minutes of regulation on the penalty kill. But some good defense and some good stops from Ryerson Leaders would keep the game tied, and the game would head to overtime. Overtime in the OHL is 3-on-3. However, since there was a second left in Del Mastro's penalty to start overtime, it would pretty much be 4-on-4 the whole period. It was just 52 seconds into the overtime period that Roberto Mancini would beat Ryerson Leaders. The Steelheads thought it may have been a high stick. They asked for the review. It was a very short review, not even a real review. It was just the referees talking about it, I think. But they would uphold the goal. Assists would go to Matthias Sapovaliv and Mitchell Smith. And the Saginaw Spirit would win this game. The Steelheads do get the single point for getting the game to overtime, but it would be a 4-3 win for the Spirit. The Steelheads left the ice pretty unhappy with the officiating. They thought that goal shouldn't have counted, and they weren't happy with the late penalty on Del Mastro either. So there was a bit of back and forth as they left the ice. But here is the post-game, the 3 stars, and what I got after the game in Saginaw.
All right, Trafford, today's Evolution Neighborhood Bar Grill. 3 stars to the game. Your third star tonight from Saginaw. With 1 goal and 1 assist. Let's hear it for Pavel Mintyukov.
Double duty today. Yeah. Until next time, number 16, number 17 awaits tomorrow. So not exactly what they wanted on Saturday night, but they do pick up a point in Saginaw, and on Sunday the Steelheads will travel south down I-75 for their final stop on the road trip, which was Flint, Michigan, to take on the Firebirds on Sunday. In Flint, Casper Larson would be back in the lineup with Jake Uberti sitting once again. Starting goalie would be Alessio Beglieri, and longtime Ottawa 67 Will Cranley would be in net for the Flint Firebirds. Here is my pregame from Flint. Sunday now, I've arrived in Flint, Michigan, and I'm leaving and going back to Canada after today's game. Michigan was different. I've never seen so many dead deer on the side of the highway before. Yeah, very different place. Different to drive here for sure, but some things never change. Sister city of Hamilton, eh? I wonder if they have like sibling rivalry promotions when the Bulldogs come. Kind of like the Misas last night. A little park that's near the arena. Nothing too crazy, just a play place and a basketball court. You know, I'd try something like that rock climbing thing, but you know, I have about 7 hours until I'm back in Canada. I can't hurt myself before then because, you know, free healthcare. Yeah, looks like a nice fun place. Almost at the arena. And here we are, OHL Arena number 17 for me. And the second and final one in Michigan, Dort Financial Center, home of the Flint Firebirds. Oh, who's coming? Fancy meeting these guys here, eh? Let's have a good end of the week. Oh my. And we're gonna be inside with all these crazy people soon. Grrr, I'm a Steelheads fan. All right, the views from Flint. And this tunnel is so open, by the way. Like, look how far I can kick. Hope the fans are nice. Flint team, beat the Flint team. Let's get a win before we go home. From the town of Saga, it's time to yell, go Steel, go. Their mascot wearing a ref uniform and a walking stick. That is incredible. Anyway, the kids got their pregame trick-or-treating done. The puck would drop, and we get underway in Flint, Michigan. Not a lot happened in the first period. The shots were 15-9 for the Mississauga Steelheads. The main observation I had from the first period was that Flint was taking a lot of shots at Alessio Beglieri, but not a lot of them were hitting him. I kind of made the remark that I think the glass behind Alessio was making more saves than he was. So shots were 15-9, but it could have easily been 15-19 or whatever, but it was no score after one. The Steelheads would strike very early in the second period. Just 15 seconds in, it would be James Hardie directing a wrist shot towards goalie Will Cranley. Cranley had to dive, but to no avail. The goal would go in. Hardie with the goal, give the assist to Luca Del Babaluz and Ethan Del Mastro. And 15 seconds into the second period, it would be 1-0 Steelheads. Flint would tie the game just a couple of minutes later, though. At the 2:01 mark, it would be Brennan Othman putting one past Alessio Beglieri to tie the game, give the assist on that one to Amadeus Lombardi and Gavin Hayes. And quickly, it would be a 1-1 game. The Steelheads would continue to dominate the shots in the second period. As I mentioned, it was 15-9 in the first period. It would be 16-9 in the second period for a two-period total of 31-18. Luca Del Babaluz would eventually break the tie at the 15:08 mark of the second period, give the assist on that one to James Hardie and Zachary Lavoie, and the Steelheads would pull ahead 2-1, which is where it would be after two. Penalties were kind of dry up to that point. There was just one penalty called in the first period. That was on Flint. There was just one penalty called in the second period. That was on Mississauga, Chaz Sharpe. But at the 4:33 mark of the third period, I'm not sure exactly what happened. It was one of those where I'm following the puck, and then all of a sudden, guys are fighting on the other side. Even saw some guys on the bench going like, "How did that start?" But as it turned out, Parker von Richter and Ethan Hay were going at it, making haymakers. No pun intended. Okay, yes, pun intended. Now, the visiting player tunnel in Flint is linked to the visiting penalty box. So I saw Parker von Richter go into the penalty box and actually leave through the tunnel. So it made me wonder if maybe he was kicked out for that fight, if maybe he got the instigator. There was a minor penalty put on the Steelhead side that Lucas Carmiras went to serve. But as it turned out, that was separate. Lucas Carmiras was called for a separate hooking call right before the fight. It turned out that during the fight, Parker sustained a cut above his eye. So once I saw the trainer leave, I realized that's what was going on. But again, with the tunnel connected to the penalty box, he was able to seamlessly sneak back in once he got looked at. And he did return to the bench, although I'm not sure he got back on the ice after that. There was only about 10 minutes left in the game at that point. But when he got back, he was smiling. You could see the cut above his eye. You could still see a little bit of blood on the visor and on the front of his jersey. But yeah, first fight in the OHL. Nice job, Parker. Something else a little bit puzzling, penalty-wise. Luke MISA was called for hooking at 8:23. Of course, that means he gets out at 10:23. The puck kind of sailed towards MISA at that time as he was getting out of the box, and it looked like MISA was going to go on a breakaway, but he was whistled again just 4 seconds after he got out at 10:27. And apparently there was some kind of interference call, and MISA went right back in there. It's something I have to look at again, I guess. Like, I didn't see where the interference was or how that wasn't just a breakaway or whatever. But yeah, it was a little bit weird. Nothing came of the power play, though, for Flint. And yeah, we'd survive. The penalties would continue to pick up in the third period at the 12:16 mark. Isaac Enright and Brennan Hoffman kind of went at it a little bit. They were both whistled for roughing. And again, with the Steelheads still leading 2-1, there was a late call on Bryce Cook, a slash, at 18:49. So to hang on to the lead, the Steelheads had to kill that last 1:11 on the clock. Not the first time that the Steelheads defense and Alessio Bagliari would be put to a test like that, but they would hang on, Alessio Bagliari making some big late saves, and the Steelheads would gut out a 2-1 victory in Flint. Great way to end the big road trip in the big 3-3. Here are the 3 stars and what I got post-game from the bus.
And it's now time for tonight's Ascension Genesis of the 3 stars of the game. Tonight's first star, earning a goal from your Flint Firebirds, number 78, BRAEDEN. Tonight's second star, will be goal and assist from the visiting Mississauga Steelheads, number 14, James HARDIE.
Yep.
And tonight's first star, will be part of the game winner from the visiting Mississauga Steelheads, number 73, Untitled.
All right.
We thank you for your attendance in today's game and continue.
Great one to finish off that road trip. I think them and me both are pretty much in a hurry to get back to Canada. So see how much I can get, and we'll wrap this trip up. Yeah.
How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
Good. How was the trip?
Good.
Yeah? Having that fun?
Oh, yeah. Well worth it. See ya. Oh. You got it.
Hey, Carlo, we'll see you at home.
For sure. All right, it's 7 o'clock and I miss Canada. Let's go home. So the Steelheads end their road trip and their week with a win. Bring back a total of 3 points from Michigan to declare at the Canadian border on their way back to Canada.
I'd call that a successful week, wouldn't you? Now, before I go, I am going to tell a bit of a story from the OHL's past that does kind of tie into why I do Movember for men's mental health, that kind of thing. The story may be triggering for some, so please do what you need to do. It is kind of fitting that I was in Saginaw this weekend for the first time because the story does involve a player who played for the Saginaw Spirit. Terry Trafford was a young Toronto native who was drafted by the Saginaw Spirit in 2010 and played for them until 2014. Terry would end up celebrating his 20th birthday on February 14th of that year, 2014, and 3 days later on February 17th he played what would end up being his final OHL game. That was at Sarnia on Family Day, which would be a 3-1 Spirit victory. There was a conversation with Terry's girlfriend Sky, where she mentioned that Terry was feeling depressed about turning 20 because it meant that his OHL days were nearing their end. He wasn't sure if they'd have him back for his overage year the next year after that. So he was kind of starting to see the writing on the wall and starting to feel depressed and worried about that. So things were starting to snowball for Terry. 4 days after that Family Day game, Terry was scratched from a game in Peterborough for being late to a workout. And then the road trip continued through Owen Sound and Guelph. And on that road trip, Terry was caught smoking marijuana. He was scratched for 2 more games after that, after which the decision was made that Terry would be sent home to Toronto. Terry was billeting with the team president at the time, so I'm sure it was a very hard decision for him to let Terry go, like, out of his home, basically, as well as, away from his team. In any case, Terry showed up at the Dow Event Center on March 3rd to pick up his equipment and bring it back to Toronto, and that is the last time he was seen alive. Now, once it was found out that Terry was indeed missing, they contacted Canadian Border Control, and that's where I think some of the confusion was, and maybe why it took quite a bit of time to find him, is that Border Patrol did have a record of him crossing back into Canada, so that's where all the search efforts were located in Toronto, where he lived, but there was no record of him crossing back into America. I think the reason was Terry had a red car, but he would cross back in a different vehicle, which was a green truck, and that's maybe where some of the confusion was, and that's why it took so long to find him. But however, it ended up coming to be on March 11th, Terry would eventually be discovered in a Walmart parking lot inside that green truck, and unfortunately by that time, he had passed away at the age of 20. A very tragic thing, obviously. The team president, the very man who Terry billeted with, basically came out and said no one saw this coming. We were hoping he'd clean up his act and be ready for next season to potentially compete for an overage spot, but we were focused on the rule violations, and we did not know that this was a very, very depressed young man. To some extent, rules are rules, but all that happened was he was late to a meeting and he smoked some dope. I mean, he didn't hurt anyone, so in my opinion, maybe there should have been less focus on, oh my god, he broke rules, and more focus on, why did it happen? Is there something going on with him? Is he okay? You can't predict what Terry was going to do, but, maybe if there'd been more focus on that, then maybe he'd still be here. We've always had discussions about the culture of hockey and, how, hockey players are supposed to be, like, macho, manly, and, talking about something like depression was in contrast to that, and it really shouldn't be. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a hockey player or whoever you are. If you have something going on, you should be able to talk about it. And I think that's kind of the lesson that came out of all this. Once Terry passed away, the OHL started looking at its policies and resources about mental health and how they could prevent something like this from happening again, and it was from that conversation that the Talk Today program was born. Talk Today, being the mental health resource that players can use to get the help they need if they are experiencing anything the way that Terry was. And it's also been noted many times that Talk Today has the same initials as Terry Trafford. So a bit of a tribute to him and, the program that was born from his tragic end, and hopes that no other OHL player would suffer a similar fate. If anyone watching this is experiencing any of the same feelings that Terry Trafford was feeling in the final weeks of his life, just remember, there is help. It's okay not to be okay. Contact your doctor, and they can put you in contact with people who can help you, and just remember, it'll be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. It's one of the reasons I do Movember every year, because there is still a very big stigma around men's mental illness, but it's way more common than you think. It's like I always say, just like a mustache, mental illness starts out invisible, which it does, but it soon grows into something you cannot ignore. So once again, if you would like to donate to my Movember page, the link is in the description. Please consider it, guys. In any case, the Steelheads will continue their schedule this week with 2 games. Saturday, November 5th, they will be at home to the Western Conference leading Windsor Spitfires. And then the following day, Sunday, November 6th, they will make their first trip north to Sudbury to take on the Sudbury Wolves. I'll be at both of those games. Hope to see some of you guys there. 2 players who won't be there will be our very own Lucas Carmiris and Ryerson Leanders. They're on their way west to take part in a U17 tournament, so they'll be away from the Steelheads for the next 2 weeks. All the best to them as they represent Canada in the U17 tournament. Once again, I end by asking the OHL and CHL, please allow the fair use of your professional and amateur footage. Help the small media so they can help you. Until next time, you can find me behind the bench and only the bench. This is Jordan signing off. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.